Board of Selectmen. Oh, thank you, Christine.
That was Rich. Thanks, Rich.
I'd like to call this special meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Monday, May 22nd, 2023 to order. And as the agenda states, this is to receive feedback from residents on our trash reduction program. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody who wanted to participate in the virtual program. I think this was a good opportunity since most people during the time of COVID wanted to speak to this program, but didn't want to come to the senior center in a gathering. So we did accommodate that, and thanks to NVCOG for at least doing their part in getting this virtual meeting together. We want to know the pros and cons of the program, what you feel about it. Doing nothing at this point with trash, and I'm sure you've read articles throughout the state in local newspapers and in other newspapers that doing nothing with our trash is not really an option anymore. In fact, just this past week in the Woodbury paper, or maybe it was in our Voices that I read that several towns, Bethlehem, Middlebury, are becoming part of this program, if I'm correct, Christine, in that. So they have taken advantage of the grant program. And the data that we have, and I think Christine will share the data during this meeting, that we are doing exceptionally well. The town of Woodbury and the town of Deep River seem to be the ones that are doing the best in this area. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Christine if you have a PowerPoint presentation, and then we can open it up for questions later on or comments later on as well. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much for doing this and for being part of this virtual fact-finding program. Okay.
All right. Thank you, First Selectwoman. I'm going to share my screen briefly. As you all know, the main sort of goal here is to get feedback from you. So I'm going to be very brief. Just want to, let's see if I can situate my screen properly. We'll do that. We'll come over here and we will share. There we go. Can everyone see what I'm my screen here? Okay, perfect. Great. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. A couple of quick things about this this program. So as you can see, the meeting is being recorded. We respectfully ask that you remain muted until you're called on. You can leave your camera on or off as you choose. And I'll just go through a couple of slides to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page before we ask for your feedback. So perhaps you already know this, but we'll review it very briefly. Woodbury's trash reduction pilot is funded through the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection's Sustainable Materials Management Grant Program. So that's a big mouthful. We call it CT Deep is the name of the state agency. And technically this program is the SMM program, but we figured trash reduction pilot was a little catchier. So we have been running this for about 3.5 months now. It launched on February 7th. We've estimated about 1,900 households with transfer station stickers that are eligible for the program. We've distributed over half the bags so far, and we have given away over 100 free food scrap collection bins. And just a quick check, Marge or First Selectwoman Perkinson, do we know if there's any more available or we're all out?
No, we do have some here in the office. I'm not sure over at Public Works though.
I have maybe 2.
Okay, so they're going like hotcakes. So
Yes.
There's possibly a couple more at the Public Works and First Selectwoman's office.
Right.
Okay, great. Okay, so what have we been doing to make this program successful, and what is our role? So I'm an environmental planner with the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments. And I have been supporting this program. We received our own grant from CT Deep for this. And some of the things that we've done to try to reach people are in-person events. We've had a kickoff fair, a community champions dinner, a recycling workshop. We presented specifically to the seniors, and we also had our first town hall feedback session in person. We also have a Facebook account that I highly encourage everyone to follow. It's called NVCOG Reduce the Trash. We post updates also like specifically about Woodbury, but also about other pilots in the region, as the first select woman alluded to, that some other towns got grants. And we also post just general tips for waste reduction, as you can see on the screen here. Thanks to Waste Zero, I believe we have Tori McBrien on the phone today. She has been phenomenal. Waste Zero is the consultant agency that has been working with us, and they're the ones who have mostly been tabling at the transfer station before, during, and after the launch. They're the boots on the ground and the people who you're talking to. And of course, we've had newspaper articles and other news media about the program. So let's go over some of the early data. Now, there's only a few programs so far that are reporting data, but here's what we have from Woodbury. So this is for the first 8 weeks. The clean food capture rate is 31%. And what that means is that out of every 3 pounds of food waste in the pilot area, we're capturing 1 of them. So that's pretty good for a brand new program that's just 8 weeks out of the gate. And it is one of the best in the among the pilots, as the first select woman mentioned. We've already, and this is a somewhat dated information, so it's even more than this, we've already sent 13,000 pounds of food scraps to the anaerobic digester to turn them into renewable energy. That is the weight of 5 great white sharks, so that's quite the impact. And waste is down 15%. This could, well, the most obvious reason is we'd be diverting the food scraps, but this likely also means that we have people recycling better, and being more mindful about the choices they make to reduce waste. And just to give a little qualitative data to go along with that quantitative data, so far, here are some of the things that we have heard from talking to people. One is for pros, we've heard it's actually easier to do than some people thought. It's not really a heavy lift, just like sorting your groceries when you bring them home, or your laundry. Sorting out the food scraps is not that big of a deal. We've actually had a surprising amount of people saying it's made me think about my trash more and actually reduce my trash, which is fabulous. That's obviously right in the name, and that's our whole hope for this. And a lot of people say they feel good about it. The cons we're hearing, by far the biggest thing has to do with the bag sizes. Either the green bags are too big because people want to take them out more often, or the orange bags don't quite fit the specific bin they have in their kitchen. So that's something that I think we've all acknowledged here in the Woodbury program, is that if we were to do any sort of permanent version, we would need to provide a variety of bag sizes to suit people. The food scrap smell, people are either experiencing that now or are worried about it for the weather. Just a friendly reminder to keep an airtight lid on whatever you're storing your food scraps in, or keep it in the freezer to prevent rot. You can also use baking powder to help with the smell. And then another thing is people didn't like having to rearrange the kitchen or change their systems. Yeah, every change is gonna take some time and some breaking your old habits. So we did expect to hear some of that. So I promised I'd be brief. That's it. Just want to go over now a few rules before we turn it over to you. So we just ask that you remain muted and that you use the raise hand function if you'd like to speak. I'll go over that in a moment. We'll call on you to share your thoughts. We just ask that your initial comment is about 3 minutes, and then we can come back to you later if you have more. This is just to give everyone a chance to speak. Please try to keep the feedback relevant to the trash reduction pilot. If you want to just give feedback, we'd love to hear it, but if you have specific questions, we do have experts on hand from the town, from NVCOG here, from Waste Zero, and Connecticut Deep is here with us. So we'll do our best to answer. And you are welcome to also use the chat feature. Just please know that it will be recorded. So just a quick demo in case you don't know. If you'd like to raise your hand to indicate you want to speak, just use at the very bottom of your screen, you should see a little tray here. Use the reactions button. It'll pop up with a few icons and select raise hand, and it'll create a nice list for us of commenters. And down here in the bottom left corner, you'll see mute or start video. You can toggle those on and off. If you are on the phone, I think we may have a few people on the phone. I'm not sure if one of them might be Karen or not. 4757. Would you be able to share your name with us? If your phone number ends in 4757. They are muted. Okay, no worries. Maybe they are just here to listen. Okay, but otherwise, this is how to run the controls if you have a computer or phone interface.
Christine, that 4757 is Karen.
Okay, great. So she's just here to listen. Perfect. Okay, great. So those are the guidelines. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we will turn it over to our first, the first one with the hand raised. Let's see. The first one I see is George Hale.
Yes,
Do you have
Christine.
feedback for us? Wonderful.
Well, and I was just trying to. I've never used the raise hand feature, so it was a little inadvertent. But
Okay.
so I'm sorry to jump the line if I did. So 2 questions though. First one is, can I throw shellfish? Like into the clamshells,
Yes.
etc.
You may.
Okay. All right. Didn't know that. And then the next one is is probably not as easy. So our board at some point, and Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, at some point, we're going to have to make a decision on how to move forward with this program or one like it, perhaps. I see enforcement as a potential problem. Right now, it's a voluntary program, and the people that are volunteering are doing a really good job. But I'm concerned about what we do if we ever went to a mandatory program like this. How would we be enforcing this with folks coming in to the transfer station?
Is that a question specifically for me, or is it just sort of a question for thought?
Well, I mean, I'm putting it out there for you or any of the other important people that you've brought to the meeting. I'm trying to envision how other communities that may be involved in this program are dealing with enforcement if people are not intentionally or unintentionally, processing their trash properly. I think it would be, I think we're going to have a hard time if we're going to expect our folks that are working at the transfer station or our public works or somebody, opening up bags. I'm really just struggling with the practical day-to-day application of this if it becomes mandatory. And any thoughts anybody might have now or later would be much appreciated. That's it.
Sure.
Well, George,
Yeah.
it's Marge Warner.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Good. I think like right now we're looking at a really successful program being volunteer. So I think it might be a good idea to continue on the volunteer route, and then maybe look at mandate. We could jump off that bridge when we come to that, but I think we're doing really well, and I wouldn't want to put a wrench in it by creating enforcement yet. So that's my feeling. I don't know how you feel about it, Barb, but I feel that we're doing really well. And, why fix it if it ain't broke right now?
Yeah, I agree with you, Marge. I think right now, when we decide, and I would hope that we would decide to keep the program, that it would remain voluntary. Hopefully, we would get more and more people to contribute to that. And as far as being mandatory, I did hear that by, I've forgotten the year now, 2027 or 8, it's going to be mandatory, and that may come down from the state level. And I can see that as being a problem. It could be more expensive for us. We would have to obviously monitor it, and I don't know whether people actually want to go through somebody's garbage like that. But right now, I foresee it's just being a volunteer program, and hopefully the word will get out that we are saving money on hauling fees, and it would entice more people to participate. And I think once it becomes a habit with most of us, it will grow and grow and grow. But I do agree with Marge. I think making it mandatory even next year is way too soon, way too soon for us to even comprehend at this point. I know my hand is up, and I was commenting on George's things, but I just want to, if Christine, if you could just say to the people that the number of bags that are used when they receive their box of bags, you were given one set or one roll of green bags for once a week, and the orange bags only 2 a week. And I think we need to stress that with people, that otherwise these bags were supposed to last for almost a year, and people are now finding that they're running out. That's not the intent of the numbers of bags. I think we really need to conserve those and follow what was originally planned. 1 green bag per week, and then the 2 orange bags for the regular trash. So I just want to reiterate that to people. And that's the only reason my hand was up, to make a comment on that.
Great.
And I apologize, I don't have a hand to raise on the computer screen. But I will say, though, that from that previous meeting that we had to yesterday or today, when we give the bags, we actually tell the people that.
Yep.
That
Okay.
a green bag should be once a week. And, you know, if they're certainly big enough, and if they become a problem for you, we've given them suggestions to make it more tolerable, and that the 2 MSW bags per week. And actually, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot of MSW for a family of 2. However, we do have larger families in Woodbury, so I think 2 is sufficient if they're recycling properly, they're doing their organic recycling properly. I think 2 is great, and I really hope everybody follows through with that.
Okay, thank you. I do want to give Bert Stevens a chance to make his comment.
Thank you, Christine. My comment is, I think it's wonderful.
Can't hear.
Sir, I'm so sorry. Would you be able to get closer to your mic? Or
Can you not hear me well?
oh, that's a little better.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong. It works great on Teams. I don't know why it doesn't work on Zoom. Somebody, can you hear me? No.
I can hear you.
All right. Anyway, for those who can hear me, I think it's a great program from Woodbury. Thank you very much for implementing it, all of you who were involved in doing it. I do think that 2 orange bags and 1 green bag is more than enough for most families. I know well more than enough money. My question is, are you going to be charging for the bags in coming years?
I didn't get that.
The question was, will we be charging for bags in coming years? Is that what you said? Okay.
Yes.
So I can take that question. So right now, what we're during this grant program, we're gathering data. And what that data is going to allow Waste Zero to do is create a number of models for ways forward. Some of those models may involve charging for bags. Some of the models may not. And so I think West Haven right now is beginning, they were one of the earliest programs, they're beginning to look at their models, and they have something like 60 different potential paths forward of all sorts of different charging for bags, not charging for bags, not having bags, or having bags and giving them for free, all different variety of options. Woodbury, as we move a little further along, will be presented with this huge menu of options as well. And they will see how it fits into the budget. They'll have every bit of information that they need from the pilot, and they will make that decision and move forward. So it is too early to tell if we will be charging for bags. I will say that during this year-long pilot, the grant we received from the state, while very generous, is finite, right? So if we have people running out of bags super early, there is only so much from our stash that we can draw on before we run out. So for now, we're just encouraging people to try to stick to those 2 orange bags, 1 green bag. Does that answer your question, sir? Awesome. Thank you. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak? If not, I can just sort of go down the list.
Christina, I don't know whether you saw, but Susan Shepherd had made a comment in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
And she said, some good recycling studies have shown that robust voluntary programs actually work better than mandatory programs. So that's basically what we're saying here.
Fabulous. Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out. And thank you, Susan. That's great feedback. Lisa, you're up.
Okay, my question has to do with moving forward into the future. And I'm wondering, are there any plans to include condo association condos? They usually have their own trash pickup, which means they don't have composting there. I have heard some people say that they live in a condo and they are doing the composting. They got a transfer station sticker and they're composting anyway, because they think it's a good thing. But I'm wondering if there's any plans to, I mean, and maybe that's, you know, a next step for the town. Could there be a composting bin at a condo complex if they were to request one? And what about things like restaurants and the schools? Because I'm thinking that they generate a lot of compostable materials, and that would take, now I don't know what happens to restaurant garbage or school garbage, but I know it has to end up someplace. So I'm just wondering what thoughts there might be about including those, what I would think would be large users of composting.
Yep. Sure. Thank you for your questions there. I'll do my best to answer and then kick it over to anyone else who'd like to chime in. So we'll start with condos. Condos are challenging because they often have their own dumpster and their own trash service entirely separate from what the municipality provides. So that is a little difficult. I might ask Tori, when Waste Zero models out the sort of future of this program, do they look at things like condos?
So you're spot on, Christine. The issue with condos, schools, and commercial businesses is that they usually have their own private haulers. So yes, we could potentially look at them. I know there's state ordinances, state legislation going through that's talking about requiring so if you produce a certain amount of food and there's an available biodigester within a certain radius that you have to.
And
but
that's
it is
already on the
open to-
books. I'll just quickly add that law has already been passed. Within 20 miles of an anaerobic digester, you make a certain amount of food. You already have to send it to that digester. The current bill that's being considered is to expand it. So kick it back.
Yeah, so these things, those kinds of legislation address it a little bit more so than what we're able to do with these types of pilot programs. I will say for something like a school, so I can give an example of a school system that recently just started a composting program, and they found that it saved them money. So it does ultimately come down to the money. So if you're talking about, like, if you want to take this to your board of ed and say we want to shift around some budget and we really care about getting composting to schools, that's kind of the way to get that done, because right now it is an extra expense. They're already paying for a dumpster, and they may be paying by like size, they may be paying by weight through these private haulers. So you can add in food scrap collection through your board of ed budget, but it may be an extra expense. Now, we just saw with a community that's participating in the SMM grant, Deep River, they added this extra, what they thought was going to be an extra expense, and then they ended up decreasing what was going into their dumpster so much that then they were able to switch how they were paying for their dumpster to go from like a per size thing now to paying per weight, and now they're making up those costs that way. So in terms of this grant, it's kind of outside of the scope of what we can really address, because we're looking at transfer station and what the town actually controls, and it's complicated through the board of ed and the private haulers, but it all comes down to the numbers. And the fact is that this waste crisis is a very real thing. The tipping fees for waste moving forward are just going up, 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 up. And so the more time that goes by, the more it's going to push us towards these options anyway. So even if it economically doesn't work out to save us money right in the next fiscal year, if you look at, say, 10 years down the road, you're going to see that these numbers save you so much money by diverting waste like this. So I hope that answers your question. I know I got into the weeds quite a bit there.
But Tori, Lisa could also, I think, could also request through her board of directors at her condo association to perhaps look into adding organic recycling through their recycling program or their MSW or their garbage pickup. So if I lived in a condo, I think I would write a letter to the board of directors and ask them if perhaps they could consider the program, and perhaps put, I don't know where the garbage bins are or where they're located, but it sure wouldn't be, a bad thing to request it. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You can absolutely request it. It's just, as we mentioned, it is a bit outside the scope of this grant. I will say that I feel like we get this question a lot of, like, what about restaurants? What about condos? Please keep in mind that DEEP has been doing a ton of work with solid waste management. This is just one prong. And as we know, with the waste crisis this big, there is no silver bullet. There are so many things we need to do. For instance, if you know of any restaurants in the area, every business in the state of Connecticut is entitled to free technical assistance from the Center for Ecotechnology, which DEEP has contracted to help them make more sustainable waste plans and get them connected with an organics provider. That's free to every single business. So there are a lot of other initiatives going on that may fall outside the scope of this program, but are still very powerful and can have a big impact. I do want to quickly acknowledge Karen Reddington Hughes has posted here. What will the cost of the to the town of Woodbury be of this program once the grant has expired? So it's a great question. During this grant program, this 1-year program, will be gathering data. And I think you may have missed that. I sort of explained this before, but you may have missed it because I know you were a couple minutes late. But basically, Waste Zero will be generating a menu of different options of how Woodbury can move forward. If Woodbury, for whatever reason, doesn't like this program at all. They can completely cut ties and say, we don't want to do it anymore. Now they need to make a good faith effort to look into it and plan for it, but that's as much as the grant requires. So it doesn't have to cost you anything. Through the modeling that will happen once we have all the data, we are all pretty confident we'll be able to demonstrate that this will save Woodbury money, and that the savings from sending the organics to a different facility, or from potentially charging for the bags, if you choose to go that route, will cover the cost of waste management. But again, you're going to have a huge menu of options based on the data. So it's too early to answer that question, but I will say that you are not obligated to spend a penny more once the grant is over. I hope that sort of answers your question. And Luciana, I saw you had your hand up before. I'm sorry, did you want to chime in?
No, I was just, hi, this is Luciana from Connecticut Deep. I was just going to talk about the commercial organic recycling law, but you covered pretty well. It's about the business or any sort of large generators that generates 26 tons or more per year of organic material, pretty much food scraps. And also they must be located within 20 miles from an authorized source separated material composting facility. We ran our map, our GIS map, and pretty much all these large facilities are within 20 miles away. So it's pretty much, we are trying to make all these facilities to send their organic materials to be composted. And as Tori mentioned, there are some schools that in the states that are already seeing the benefits of implementing food scraps in their schools. And if you guys want to look at, Deep ran a program, a webinar about school cafeterias, and we brought some speakers talking about what they did in their schools programs. So I can share the link with you about the web of this webinar. And if you are interested, just give us a call or send us an email.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Luciana. And Lisa, let me just ask, do you have another question for us, or is your hand raised from last time?
No, well, I didn't take it down, but I do have another question,
Please.
which is there some place on the COG website where we can look to see, I mean, I love getting, you know, how many 1,000 pounds of composting has been sent to the anaerobic. Is there a way to get updates online and like a link or something that we could get to periodically check to see what's going on?
Yeah, it's a great question. Unfortunately, most of the data we get is sort of sporadic. It doesn't come to us on a regular level, and we don't always necessarily get the same data. So we might get, you know, contamination rate this time and then tons of food this time. But what I would say is, if you have a Facebook, follow our Facebook because we give updates there. And I'll put our link in the chat so anyone can follow if they want. We do have web pages on the NVCOG website for each of the towns, but they're not really updated with data because, like I said, it's a little sporadic the way we get it. Is there like a single page that Deep gives this data to the public, Luciana?
Not really, but I actually like this idea of feeding the data, and it's something that I can definitely bring to my management team, and we can talk about it. Yeah.
Great. And then Tori, I seem to remember, so we do have a web page for each town. It's called reducethetrashct.com/whatever, in your case, Woodbury. I thought at some point Courtney had talked about updating those pages with data once we have it. Is that still a plan or no longer?
Yeah, you know that I wasn't around for all that, so I can look into it.
Okay.
I'll also say you can download the app. There is a Community Connect app that we were kind of giving out brochures. There's a QR code on the brochure or you can go to the website and it'll point you there. And then just little things come out through the app. Like I'm a big fan of the knowing how much food scraps in terms of like unit of shark. I think that stuff is great. So we send out little things like that on the app, as well as just kind of, but again, it is sporadic. It's a pilot program. You know, we like to say, like, when doctors do medical studies, you don't really hear all the results until the end. So stay tuned for the big juicy finale where we really like unpack all the results. But for now, I think it's just like kind of tidbits here and there as we get interesting indicators.
And Lisa, I'll just share my screen once again, very briefly. So this is, whoops, hold on. To give you an idea of some of the stuff we post on the Facebook, this is, I think, slightly earlier or later data than the one we just showed you, but it's a different way to visualize it. I know it is, it's very small now, but you can see we try to post these when we're able to share some of the data. This was from our Facebook to give a little bit of context to it too, because it's a lot of numbers and a lot of percentages that can be a little overwhelming or difficult taken out of context. So I hope I'll be posting an updated version of this in the next few months to continue sharing data with you guys. So we'll do our best to get the news out there when we can.
Thank you. Oh, I have to unmute. Thanks a lot.
Yes, of course. We have a few other members of the public on here. I think maybe I'll just go down the list and call on their name and see if they have anything they want to share or ask. So I see Alex Courtney. Do you have anything to share?
Hi, it's actually Alex's wife, Kathleen.
Oh, okay.
No, I just wanted to say that it's actually working out really well for us. We have a trash can, not a can, but a plastic one in a drawer that you pull out. And what we've done is put the orange bag like in the back of it and the green bag in front of it. And it works really well for us. And then Alex takes it to the dump periodically, you know, whenever it needs to go.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So we're happy with it. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing the feedback. We appreciate that. I will then ask Susan Shepherd. Do you have any I know you did post something in the chat. If you're unable to unmute or simply choose not to, you're also welcome to put any other comments you have in the chat. And let's see, who else do we have? Oh, we got some people coming and going here. I think, did I get everyone? I thought there was someone else here just a moment ago, but was that all the members of the public? I know Bert Stevens spoke. I think everyone else is part of the program. Lisa spoke. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that, Susan. Susan has laryngitis. Oh no. Okay, we'll get well soon, but thank you for being on to listen with us. I think at this point, I'll just ask if, just open the floor one last time, ask if anyone has any thoughts or questions for the good of the group. Okay, wonderful. Easy peasy. So I'm just going to share my screen one last time, very briefly. Oh gosh, let's see if I can do this properly. I just wanted to share my, oh my goodness, my contact info. Let me move that and do this. Hold on. There we go. That's our phone number, that's our email address, and that's the Facebook that I have been mentioning. So call us anytime. We can pretty much answer any questions you may have about the about this program. We can't help with things like oh, my garbage bin has been knocked over, or I don't like the transfer station hours, but we can absolutely help with recycling questions and general waste reduction tips. I get calls about recycling all the time and I love them. So Never hesitate to ask us. And with that, I think we're all set. Thank you so much for joining us. We really
Okay.
appreciate it, and we hope to continue sharing good news. I'll turn it back
Okay.
over to the
Thank you
selectmen.
very much, Christine. I appreciate your time, and from Deep and Waste Zero, I really appreciate it. With that, George, would you like to make a motion?
I would be happy to. Thank you for everyone participating. A motion to adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all very, very much. And
Thank
remember, if you need
Good night.
questions answered, please call.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.